Welcome to Mechanic. Today we have a 2023 Chevy Bolt. On this vehicle I'm going to show you how to change your rear brakes and rotor. So to start with, before you can do this, we do raise the vehicle, support it on jack stands. We also need to put the electric parking brake into service mode. So the one or two ways to do it: one through the commands in the cabin of the vehicle, and or using a scan tool to be able to put that into service mode. Once that's done, then you're now able where you can remove this, and then one of the reasons you need to put the service mode in is you won't be able to push this parking brake back without doing that, or the electronic parking brake. So before we get to, I want to undo the electric connection, which is down here on the bottom. We need to push, there's a little red connector. We push that backward, and then once that's back, we'll be able to depress the other portion of the connection and unhook that electrical connector. Then we need a size 13 millimeter wrench or socket, depending what you like to use. And we can see that this is spinning here, so we need to hold that back. Either a good pair of needle nose pliers, is generally not too tight, or a narrow wrench, and it's a size 17 millimeter. So we're going to undo both of them, but I'm going to leave this top one in a little bit while we undo the bottom. We got the same thing, so using a wrench, being able to loosen and remove that, and then we don't have the space for it to swing up. Sometimes you do. All right, and we remove those. That had some blue Loctite on it, so we will reinstall them with some of that. And now we have our brake caliper unit up and able to support it hanging up here one way or the other, so that we're not putting a lot of pressure on the line itself. Like we can actually just set it up in there, and that will work out just fine. Now we have our brake pads to be removed, and just by working them out, you'll see they've got little tabs in here, and pop them out. We visually take a look to see how they'll go back on. There's nothing different except that the inside one has the wear tab, which when it goes on, this tab will make a loud noise, a grinding noise, before you hit metal on your brakes. And that's what it's there for, right? We also have these shims that you would remove. Generally, your kit will come with new ones. If it doesn't, then just go ahead and leave those on. No problem there. Now, we also, somewhere, whether we do it now or we do it after, we want to remove these little glide pins, clean them up, and you would repeat for both of them. And then we want to apply some brake caliper grease, special high heat point grease for these. And we don't need a ton on there, but we just want to have some on there. And then being able, I like to spin it as it goes in, press it in, and you see how that's got the air bubbles in it? If you press it and then pull right there, squeeze, you're able to get those air bubbles out so that your thing works. And you'll just repeat the same concept on the bottom one here, and then note that the bottom one has the little rubber dampener on there, and sometimes those wear out and you can replace those also. But that right there, so everything still moves in, and so if you want that air bubble out, just squeeze that and squeeze it through. Now, the main reason why I didn't really apply more new grease on there, that old grease was not looking bad, and this vehicle's only got 11,000 miles on it, so this is just an example of how you do this. So next, to be able to remove this carrier bracket so that we can remove our rotor for replacement, we need a 19 millimeter. I stand corrected, that's an 18 millimeter. Hang on. All right, retrieve the 18 millimeter to be able to get these undone. And these are probably most likely going to have some type of like Loctite on them. So they'll be a little bit tight. So we get them loose. Whether you use a wrench or a socket. So I'm going to remove this one completely, then I'm going to put it back in a little bit and be able to remove the one on the bottom. And the reason we put it back in because this thing's going to rock back and forth and you're going to lose all of your ability there. So now we can actually remove that by hand. So we'll just leave that there and then finish removing the bottom one. There we go. Okay, so now we remove that whole bracket. Remove it. If you got a lot of rust and debris on here, you go ahead and clean that off. Now, to be able to remove our rotor, we need to undo this T30 screw that is holding this in. It's only here for assembly. If it comes out perfect, then you go ahead and put it back in. And they should never be really too tight. They're really, like I said, it's for assembly. If you have to drill it out because it's rusted in there or whatnot, no worries about it if you don't get a new one. And then you can just install a lug nut on here and bring it up to the metal to hold it into place while you put everything together. There we go. And there is our rotor removed for a replacement on your vehicle. So we need to depress that brake caliper unit, so we have a presser to push it back. Now, again, if this electric parking brake wasn't released or in the retraction mode, service mode, this would not go backwards at all. There won't be any and so forth. So we just be able to push it back. A lot of times I like to use a brake here so they don't push it back too far. And we also inspect that there's no leaks here, and we're good. And then we'll just set that aside until we get ready to put everything else back on. So next, you'll take your new rotor, we line it up with the hole if we happen to not have had to drill that out, and then install our little screw here. Like I said, this just helps to hold everything in place for assembly. And we just want it a bit snug, nothing crazy. There we go. So now we're able where we can put our carrier bracket back on. We can tell that there was some Loctite, a little dab of red Loctite to hold everything together. Go ahead. So Since it had a little bit of Loctite, we'll put a little bit. I'm just putting blue because you still got a little bit of that red in there. You can put red, but we really just want a little bit of help to keep it on. And then we tighten it up. Alright, those are on there good and snug. You can use a torque wrench if you feel the need. Just good and snug. They have a little bit of Loctite, so they're going to be just fine. So now we have our new shims. If you've got new shims to put back on here, being that we're just showing you how this is done, I'm going to reinstall the old shims with its corresponding little spring. And so you've got the spring with a little tab on there that's going to grab the brakes, and that way it brings them back so that they don't ride on your brake pads and make a lot of noise or wear your brake pads out shortly. So we line these up over the clips there. I'm going to slide this one out a little bit, I think. There we go. And then, again, we're taking our brake pads and going to be able to install these inside of the springs first and then press them towards. Same thing with the back one. And remember that we have our wear tab sensor on there. It's a sensor or a noise maker. We want to make sure that's on the bottom side, so as you're driving forward, that's when it's going to make the most noise for you so that you can hear it. So our brake pads are installed on there, and now getting our caliper unit back around here, and then being able to line it up and over, installing the bolt. I'm going to put a little bit of, I can hold there. We'll also put a nice little dab of blue Loctite on there, just a teeny, being the fact that it did come off with Loctite. And a lot of times when you buy your brake kits, depending on how full of kit you get, sometimes they'll provide new bolts with the pre-applied Loctite. We've got our 13 millimeters in there, and then we're going to tighten them. And we can see that that was starting to turn a little bit. And so we'll want to hold it back just so we can get things tightened the way that they need to be. There we go. So that is the brake replacement, our rear brakes on the vehicle. Just repeat that same process for the other side. And then you'll need to put your brakes back into service mode, or not service. Take them out of service mode so that they will function the way that they're supposed to, being your electronic parking brake. So you follow those steps to do that, and you're good to go. Put your tire back on, put the vehicle on the ground, and torque the lug nuts to spec. Thanks for watching, Mechanic, where you can be the mechanic.